I've always felt very strongly about it, and I've been watching very carefully what others have been doing.
At dawn, wrapped in fog along the French border, Camilla's security guard was taken into custody, and the suitcase in his possession held no garments, only something never meant to surface. Word of the incident raced back to Buckingham Palace. Camilla sealed herself inside her private chambers, locking them down completely, while William pressed for answers. Silence was the only response. No one was willing to speak. Camilla moved with ruthless speed. Commands were issued, evidence wiped away, money quietly exchanged, all in an effort to bury a specter from her past. At the same time, William traced the faintest of leads in the shadows, driven by the belief that this secret was tied to his mother. Within a realm where virtue and deception share the same crown, a single question refuses to die. What was truly hidden inside that suitcase? The object powerful enough to rattle the entire royal family. Late night at the French-English border. The English Channel lay smothered in dense fog, icy winds racing back along the A26, like an omen sent by fate itself. A sleek black Bentley Continental cut through the darkness, its headlights carving a narrow path across the sleeping fields of Pas-de-Calais. At the wheel sat Reginald Hargrove, 53, Queen Camilla's most trusted bodyguard, a man who had pledged his life to her loyalty for over 20 years. Despite the temperature hovering at just 3 degrees Celsius, sweat gathered on Reginald's brow. In the trunk, a Samsonite suitcase rested motionless, yet weighed heavily. Inside were dozens of tightly sealed folders, classified documents he had been ordered to remove from England at any cost. He checked his Rolex, a gift from Camilla for a service anniversary. 10 minutes remained before reaching Calais station. He had driven 6 hours from London, deliberately avoiding the Channel Tunnel and opting for a night ferry to reduce exposure. Still, his heart thundered in his chest, beating like a drum announcing an approaching battle. Without warning, red and blue lights erupted behind him. 2 police vehicles blocked the road ahead as 4 officers in reflective vests stepped forward, hands hovering near their holsters. "Stop the vehicle, papers!" the commanding officer barked, his voice cold and razor-sharp. Reginald lowered the window, forcing a tight, uneasy smile. "Just traveling, sir. London to Paris." The officer didn't look at him, his gaze locked onto the trunk. "Open it. Now." Hands shaking, Reginald pressed the release. A dry click echoed in the night as the trunk lifted, exposing the suitcase. The officer unzipped it. No narcotics, no weapons, no cash. Only stacks of rigid blue folders, each stamped in stark red letters. Top secret, British royal family. Ordered to open them, the first document slipped free. Its title read, Financial Report of the Hearts of Britain Fund, 1994 to 1997. At the bottom was a signature, elegant, unmistakable, handwriting that sent a chill through every spine present. Princess Diana. "Top secret material of the British royal family," the officer shouted. "Notify the British Embassy immediately." Reginald was cuffed, shoved roughly into a patrol car. The suitcase was sealed with care and sent directly to Interpol headquarters in Lyon. An emergency call tore through the night toward London. Buckingham Palace. King Charles's study glowed faintly beneath the amber light of an antique desk lamp. Draped in an Italian silk robe, the king sat rigid in a leather armchair, an untouched glass of whiskey clenched in his hand. Across from him stood Sir Edward Fitzalan, royal private secretary, his face drained of all color. "Sire," Sir Edward murmured, his voice unsteady. "Reginald Hargrove, Queen Camilla's bodyguard, has been arrested in Calais. The suitcase contains documents belonging to Princess Diana." "Diana," Charles repeated, the name sounding like a curse dragged from the past. Nearly 30 years on, her shadow still haunted the palace walls. The door swung open. Prince William, Prince of Wales, entered with deliberate force. His black suit still carried the scent of smoke from a night flight. His eyes were rimmed red from exhaustion, yet his stare cut like steel. "Father, what's happening?" Sir Edward explained again. William's hand tightened into a fist. "Call MI5 immediately. I want every page in that suitcase traced and verified." He turned to his father, unwavering. "This isn't coincidence. Someone is trying to erase evidence." Camilla appeared in the doorway. She wore an immaculate white silk robe, her hair perfectly arranged, her expression unnervingly composed. In her hand was a cup of cold Earl Grey, lips pressed thin. "What's all this?" she asked softly, though her eyes flicked toward William with guarded precision. William met her gaze without blinking. "Reginald is your bodyguard. The suitcase contains files my mother compiled, records of suspicious financial dealings within the Royal Charity Fund. What do you know about them?" His voice was winter itself. Camilla raised the cup and drank slowly. "I know nothing," she replied calmly. "Perhaps Reginald is attempting to smear me." She set the porcelain down. The faint clink against the wood sounded like a funeral bell. Silence flooded the room, thick and airless. William turned away, dialing MI5. "Confirm the origin of every document. This is urgent." Fax machine's word. Phones rang without pause. The palace trembled. One word passed from mouth to mouth in hushed disbelief. Diana. Outside, London erupted like a disturbed hive. The Sun screamed across its front page, "Queen Camilla's bodyguard arrested with Diana's documents." The BBC cut regular programming for breaking coverage. Hundreds of reporters swarmed the palace gates, cameras flashing endlessly. Online, the hashtag Diana Files surged worldwide. From Buckingham, only a brief, icy statement emerged. "We do not comment on internal matters. All information will be addressed through appropriate legal channels. A temporary holding cell in Calais." Reginald hunched on a freezing metal chair as a French officer spoke monotonously. "You will be extradited to England. Cooperation is advised." Camilla's voice echoed in his mind. "Take them out. Destroy them in France. Leave nothing behind." The suitcase had been a ticking bomb. Diana's hidden archive. Detailed proof of corrupt transactions within the Royal Charity Fund. Donations meant for the poor rerouted through private accounts. Diana had uncovered it. She had documented everything. Now the truth had resurfaced, like a curse refusing to stay buried. Reginald thought of his wife, his children, Camilla's promise. "Your family will be protected." Now there was only darkness. "I was wrong," he whispered. William scanned MI5's preliminary briefing. The first page read, "Transfer of £2.3 million, 1995, from Hearts of Britain Fund to Eurotrust Laltid, Cayman Islands. Approval, Camilla's office." William crushed the paper in his fist. "She knows," he muttered. His gaze drifted down the corridor toward Camilla's chambers, where the light still burned. The storm had begun, and this time, no one would outrun it. Clarence House, 6:45 a.m. The first fragile light of dawn slipped through heavy velvet curtains, washing over Camilla's face, drained of color, dark shadows beneath her eyes, yet still hard, alert, unyielding. She sat at a walnut desk. In her right hand, an encrypted phone. In her left, a cup of bitter black espresso, untouched by sugar. A brief message glowed on the screen, sent from an untraceable number. Hargrove detained in Calais. Suitcase sealed. Camilla drew a slow breath, then typed rapidly. "Contact Laurent immediately. Bribe, testimony. Acted alone." The call connected within 3 seconds. On the line was Thierry Laurent, a senior customs official in Calais, a man who had received discreet Christmas gifts from Clarence House for a decade. His voice was rough, scarred by years of cigarettes. "What do you want?" Camilla was direct. €1 million. Immediate transfer. Reginald takes full responsibility. State that he acted independently, out of excessive loyalty to me. His family will be protected." Laurent hesitated for 2 seconds. "High risk," he said. "2 million if it works," Camilla cut in. The line went dead. She exhaled, but the weight in her chest remained, heavy as stone. She rose and moved to the window overlooking the fog-soaked garden. Memories surged forward like a waking nightmare. 1996. A private afternoon tea at Kensington Palace. Diana entered wearing a plain white dress, her eyes blazing with restrained fury. "Camilla, I have everything," Diana said, her voice shaking yet resolute, placing a thick stack of files onto the tea table. "The Hearts of Britain Fund. Money meant for orphans diverted into your accounts and Charles's. Millions routed through the Caymans and Switzerland. I will expose this." Camilla had smiled then, calmly sipping her Darjeeling. "You're imagining things, Diana. Rumors. I'm not involved." Inside, she had panicked. Diana possessed forged invoices, transfer records, signatures traced directly back to Camilla's office. After the Paris crash in 1997, Camilla believed the truth had been buried with Diana. She ordered her former bodyguard, retired by then, to remove the files from Kensington's archives. The official explanation followed. Lost during palace renovations, 1998. No suspicion ever surfaced. For nearly 30 years, the laundering mechanism inside the Hearts of Britain Fund ran in silence. Donations were funneled into London property, covert political financing, even the purchase of Picasso paintings now hanging in Clarence House. Camilla supervised every movement through the shell company Euro Trust Limited. She had felt untouchable until the previous night. She returned to the desk and opened a high-security laptop. A message from the chief accountant awaited her. Pre-2015 data erased, 70%. Remaining 30% requires more time. Camilla replied instantly. "Erase everything. Now. Dismiss anyone who slows this down." She knew William was investigating. Speed was her only weapon. At 8:30, she summoned her most trusted operative, Marcus Vale, a retired MR6 agent. "Activate Plan B," she ordered, her voice quiet but razor-edged. "Reroute legacy funds to Switzerland. New identities, new accounts, shell company, Andorra Capital." Marcus nodded, expression unreadable. "Understood. But if Reginald talks..." "He won't," Camilla interrupted. "His family is under observation." She thought of Reginald, loyal to the point of blindness. 20 years earlier, he had driven her through back streets to escape photographers. Just last year, he refused retirement, insisting he would serve her until death. That loyalty was now leverage. Through a covert channel, Camilla had sent a message to Reginald's wife. "Cooperate and your family remain safe. Betray us, and the consequences will be unthinkable." In Calais, Reginald sat in a damp holding room, wrists cuffed to the table. Laurent entered and slid a document toward him. "Sign this. Say you acted alone. The money will secure your wife and children." Reginald stared at the sample statement. Camilla's voice echoed in his mind. "Reginald, this is for the royal family." His hand shook as he picked up the pen. Tears fell onto the page as he signed. "I acted independently to protect Queen Camilla." London, 10 a.m. William read the MI5 update. Hargrove's testimony, acted alone. He slammed the file onto the table. Lies. He called his advisor immediately. Put Hargrove's family under surveillance and audit every account tied to Hearts of Britain. The stench of deception was growing stronger. Clarence House, noon. Laurent's message arrived. Statement secured. Reginald silent. Camilla allowed herself her first smile of the day. Thin, cold, controlled. She believed the crisis contained. She did not see what was already unfolding in the shadows. Emily Carter, a young accountant loyal to William, had overheard fragments of Camilla's instructions. Before the system purge completed, she secretly copied the 1995 financial records onto a USB drive. Hands trembling, Emily left the office, unaware that a security camera had captured everything. Late afternoon, Camilla stood before the mirror, adjusting her jewelry with practiced precision. "Diana," she murmured softly, "you lost." Yet beneath the surface, fear gnawed relentlessly. William was closing the distance, and the conspiracy once hidden so carefully had begun to crack. At Scotland Yard, Interrogation Room 7 felt like a frozen vault. Gray concrete walls, unforgiving white fluorescent lights glaring straight down onto Reginald Hargrove. He sat behind a metal table, wrists loosely cuffed, shoulders sagging as if his body no longer fit inside his resolve. His eyes were hollow, reddened by sleeplessness and relentless pressure. Across from him sat two inspectors. William had flown back from France that very night. He stood behind the one-way mirror in a perfectly cut gray suit, scribbling rapid notes into a black leather notebook. At his side was the royal legal advisor, Sir Malcolm Grey. "Watch his eyes," William murmured. "Words can deceive. The body never does." The door opened, and Reginald was escorted in. He glanced up, startled by a familiar shape beyond the glass. Indistinct, yet unsettling. The questioning began. "Hargrove," one inspector said, "start from the beginning. Where did the suitcase come from?" Reginald drew a deep breath. His voice came out flat, mechanical. "I found it in an old storage room at Clarence House. Documents belonging to Princess Diana. I believed they could damage Queen Camilla, so I removed them from England on my own to destroy them. She has no knowledge of it." Inspector Riley leaned forward. "Royal classified material, smuggled across a border without declaration. All for loyalty?" "Yes," Reginald replied stiffly. "I acted alone." But his hands betrayed him, trembling slightly, his index finger tapping the tabletop, a textbook stress response. William wrote quickly. Contradiction 1. Why remove Diana's documents to protect Camilla? His jaw tightened. The statement sounded polished, rehearsed to the last syllable. Detective Inspector Klein slid a photograph of the suitcase across the table. "Whose instructions were these?" "No one's," Reginald said, shaking his head. "Mine." They shifted to the Hearts of Britain Fund. "Are you aware of the £2.3 million transfer in 1995? Reginald's color drained. His lips pressed thin. "That's irrelevant. Just old paperwork." Sweat appeared along his hairline, despite the room being kept at 18 degrees. William noted again. Contradiction 2. Fear at the fund's mention. Not guilt, but pressure. The interrogation stretched on for 3 hours. Reginald repeated the same refrain. "Queen Camilla is innocent. I acted independently." Yet each time he spoke her name, his voice wavered, his eyes darting toward the door as if searching for protection. Riley slammed his palm against the table. "Where is your family, Hargrove?" "At home," Reginald replied stiffly. "Safe." But William saw it clearly. The terror in Reginald's eyes wasn't for himself. It was for his wife and children. Eventually, a hand signal cut the recording. 10-minute recess. Reginald was led away. William stepped out of the observation room and spoke quietly to Gray. "He's shielding someone. His testimony is guided." Gray nodded. "I agree, but we still need proof." William requested a private conversation. In a small adjoining room, it was just the two of them. Reginald sat opposite, gaze fixed on the floor. William rested his hand on the table, his tone low, controlled, almost gentle. "Reginald, I know loyalty defines you, but tell me, loyal to whom? To Camilla or to the royal family? Reginald swallowed hard. Your Highness, William continued. Your family is under surveillance. I can protect them. Tell the truth. Restore your honor. Reginald's head dropped. Tears spilled freely. She gave the order, but I can't. His voice broke off, as though the walls themselves were listening. William didn't push further. He stood. Think carefully. I'll return. Outside, he called security immediately. Place Hargrove's family under protection. Now. A new report followed soon after. His wife received an anonymous call last night. Message, silence or late evening, Clarence House. Camilla received Laurent's update. Interrogation concluded. Testimony stands. Relief washed over her, briefly. Then her phone vibrated. Marcus Vale. William requested a private meeting with Reginald. Dangerous development. Camilla's hand tightened around her glass of red wine. The crystal shattered in her grip. Blood dripped onto the Persian carpet. Scotland Yard, 10 p.m. Reginald lay awake on his narrow prison bed, twisting restlessly. Images of his wife and children flickered behind his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered into the dark. By morning, William would return, and Reginald knew the choice ahead was unavoidable: blind loyalty or the truth. Back at Buckingham Palace, William opened his mother's old files. One handwritten line stood out. They will never stop. Protect the truth. He clenched the page in his fist. The veil of pretense was tearing apart. Inside Clarence House, Camilla stood alone in her private study, wrapped in a black silk robe, her hair loose and unkempt. 3 computer monitors glowed before her, each tracing a different stream of money. Her fingers moved without pause, eyes fixed and unblinking as she typed. Transfer £4.8 million from Hearts of Britain Legacy Fund to Andorra Capital, account 7742-X. Biometric verification followed. Fingerprint, then iris scan. Transaction completed in 11 seconds. She opened an encrypted line to Marcus Vale. Erase every transaction record prior to 2015. No metadata. Nothing. From the basement of Clarence House, Marcus appeared on the secure feed and nodded. Self-destruct protocol initiated. 40 minutes. Primary server will be completely wiped. Good, Camilla replied. Step 3. Alert the lawyers. She ended the call. Her heartbeat was calm, steady, not driven by fear, but by the cold exhilaration of pursuit. Moments later, an emergency legal council was convened in a sealed conference room. 4 figures sat around the table: 2 Queen's Counsel from London, an international tax specialist, and a former Crown prosecutor. Camilla placed a bundle of fabricated files before them. This is the official narrative, she said. Reginald acted alone. Diana's documents were personal keepsakes he stole. Hearts of Britain is clean from 2015 onward. The lead QC, Helena Croft, pushed her glasses up slightly. We can block warrants using royal protection orders, but if Prince William already has copies. There are no copies, Camilla cut in flatly. At 7:15, deep inside the Clarence House data center, senior IT technician James Patel supervised the purge. A progress bar pulsed on the screen, deleting 1994 to 2014. 87% complete. The final instruction appeared: permanent deletion. James exhaled in relief and confirmed the command. What he didn't notice, or chose not to, was the security camera in the corner, quietly recording Emily Carter leaving the building 3 minutes before the system crashed. By 8 o'clock, Camilla received confirmation. Data purge complete. Her lips curved into a thin smile as she placed a call to Switzerland. Activate the new account. The £4.8 million transfer finalized without resistance. To her, the past was now erased. At Buckingham Palace, the mood was very different. MI5 briefed William. Hearts of Britain systems wiped clean pre-2015. Professional execution. William slammed his hand against the desk. Camilla. He immediately ordered the technical unit into action. Recover from cloud redundancies. Cross-check all linked servers. Minutes later, an engineer reported back. We detected a major transfer this morning, routed through Andorra Capital. At 9:30, Clarence House. Marcus Vale flagged an anomaly, Emily's early departure. The security footage showed her leaving with a USB device. We have a breach, Marcus said. An internal one. Camilla's face drained of color. Find her. Security intercepted Emily at the rear gate. She was seized, stripped of the device, and dragged into a sealed room. Camilla entered moments later, her voice glacial. You're dismissed. You will sign a non-disclosure agreement. Refuse, and you'll meet our prison lawyers. Shaking uncontrollably, Emily signed. She was expelled immediately, jobless, silent, erased. By evening, Camilla reviewed everything one final time. Funds secured in Switzerland. Records destroyed. Legal defenses prepared. Satisfied, she made one last call to Calais. Is Reginald holding? He hasn't said a word. In her bedroom at Clarence House, Camilla adjusted her pearl necklace before the mirror. It's finished, she murmured. Yet for a fleeting second, Diana's reflection seemed to shimmer behind her. Or perhaps it was only her imagination. At the same moment, William received a call from an old banking contact in the Cayman Islands. We retain offline archives of the 1995 transactions. Shall we forward them? William smiled, the first genuine smile in days. Send them. Immediately. He didn't need to ask who had triggered it. He already knew. Inside his private study at Buckingham Palace, William sat surrounded by towering stacks of documents. A lone desk lamp spilled a muted light across his face, eyes bloodshot from days without sleep. Yet his stare remained razor-sharp. MI5 printouts were strewn across the desk, photographs of Reginald Hargrove's family, Laura, his wife, a soft-spoken primary school teacher, Sophie, their 12-year-old daughter, smiling innocently while clutching a teddy bear. Beside the photos lay a surveillance report. 2 unmarked black vehicles stationed brazenly outside their house, unfamiliar figures lingering nearby like phantoms. William's hand curled into a fist, knuckles blanching. Camilla, he muttered, his voice thick with fury and resolve. This was no longer mere concealment. It was intimidation. He acted without hesitation. Secure Hargrove's family, he ordered the Royal Security Unit. Relocate them immediately. Colonel Rhys Morgan responded with clipped precision, his tone carrying the cadence of command. William nodded through the encrypted video feed. Not a single hair touched, William said coldly. This is war. That same evening, threats reached Reginald's wife and child. But within the hour, confirmation arrived. The family had been moved to safety. Those issuing the threats were under interrogation. William released a breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. For the first time in days, relief broke through. Now came confrontation. Without notifying anyone beyond his inner advisory circle, William traveled quietly to Wandsworth Prison. In a secluded meeting room, no cameras, no recording devices, Reginald sat opposite him, hollow-cheeked, eyes swollen from fear and guilt. Your Highness, he murmured, his voice barely audible. William placed photographs of Reginald's family on the table. They're safe. The threats are over. Reginald's head snapped up. Tears spilled uncontrollably. She promised they'd be protected. William cut in, his voice calm but resolute. Camilla lied. She used you to shield her crimes. Tell the truth, Reginald. I will protect you and your family. Your name will be restored, not as a traitor, but as a man who chose what was right." Silence stretched unbearably long. Then Reginald bowed his head, his voice cracking. "She orchestrated everything. From the beginning. In 1996, Princess Diana uncovered the scheme. Camilla ordered the files stolen and staged their disappearance during palace renovations. The laundering through the Hearts of Britain Fund. Hundreds of millions vanished through shell companies. I was only the final courier. But I knew the routes. Cayman Islands, Switzerland." William wrote swiftly, pulse hammering. "Do you have concrete proof?" Reginald lowered his voice, as if afraid the walls could listen. "There's a USB hidden inside the suitcase lining. Password, Diana 97. William didn't hesitate. "Colonel Morgan, retrieve the suitcase from evidence. Check the lining immediately." At Scotland Yard, under strict supervision, the suitcase was reopened. The lining was cut open. A small silver USB drive slipped free. Inserted into an isolated terminal, folders appeared. 127 PDF files, forged invoices, transfer receipts from the Cayman Islands, 1995 to 1997. Emails bearing Camilla's initials, CPB, ordering, transfer urgently, leave no trace. William held the USB, a cold smile forming. This turns the board. He convened his secret advisory council in the palace's most secure chamber. Cross-verify every transaction. Trace intermediary banks in the Caymans. A data engineer typed furiously. The patterns match Diana's original records. The £2.3 million transfer in 1995 passed through Eurotrust Lud, a shell. Cayman banks retain offline archives. We can request them. William rose, authority filling the room. Prepare the full dossier for the Royal Council. Announcement in 48 hours. Across London, at Clarence House, Marcus Vale delivered grim news. Hargrove's family is gone. Camilla went pale. Her hands shook as she tried Reginald through the secret channel. No response. "William," she whispered, fear breaking through her composure for the first time. She opened her safe, pulling out forged passports. Her fingers froze. She couldn't bring herself to close it. Back at Wandsworth, Reginald signed a 12-page sworn statement. His voice steady now. Back at Wandsworth, Reginald signed a 12-page sworn statement. His voice steady now. "I will testify in court if required." William rested a hand on his shoulder. "Thank you. My mother would be proud of you and of this." At Buckingham Palace, William opened his personal safe and removed a final relic from Diana. An old envelope. Inside, a scrap of her handwriting read, "If you are reading this, fight. Truth is the only weapon." Tears slid down his face as he whispered, "I'm doing it, Mother, for the honor of the crown." Morgan's message arrived moments later. USB verified. 42 major transactions. Sufficient for embezzlement charges. William sent an encrypted notice to the Royal Council. Emergency session. 24 hours. Subject, Queen Camilla. Charity fund embezzlement. At Clarence House, Camilla stood at the window overlooking the restless city. Her phone vibrated. Unknown number. You lost. W. The teacup slipped from her hand, shattering against the marble floor. Darkness closed in around her. But this time, the light was rising elsewhere. On William's side. Royal Council Chamber, Buckingham Palace. The walnut doors shut with a sharp click, a sound as final as a blade cutting off every path of retreat. The long oval table, draped in dark green cloth, dominated the room. 14 leather chairs stood around it. 12 occupied, 2 conspicuously empty, 1 reserved for Camilla, 1 for King Charles. At the head stood William, Prince of Wales, upright and immovable, a 300-page dossier held firmly in his hands. William set a silver USB drive on the table. The metallic tap against the wood cracked the silence like a starter's pistol. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, his voice low yet honed like steel, "we are not gathered here to debate tradition. We are here to defend the truth." He pressed a remote. The screen behind him illuminated. First appeared an email from 1996, signed CPB, instructing the transfer of £2.3 million from the Hearts of Britain Fund to Eurotrust Ltd. Then followed Cayman Islands transaction receipts, falsified invoices, and finally, a 47-second audio recording from Wandsworth Prison. Reginald's voice filled the room, steady and unmistakable. She ordered it, the theft of Diana's files, laundering money through the charity fund. I was only the courier. Then Camilla's voice, encrypted, cold. "Remain silent, Reginald. Your family will be protected." The chamber froze. The Duke of York lowered his head. The Duchess of Gloucester raised a hand to her mouth. King Charles remained rigid, gripping the arms of his chair until his knuckles blanched white. William continued, unflinching. 42 major transactions, £187 million, funds intended for orphans and war victims diverted into London property, Picasso artworks, and Swiss accounts, all tied directly to Queen Camilla. The door opened. Camilla entered wearing a plain black dress. Her pearl necklace caught the light, but her face was drained of all color. She took the empty seat without meeting anyone's gaze. William looked directly at her. "Do you wish to explain?" Her lips tightened. Her voice came out rough. "This is a misunderstanding. Reginald acted on his own." William responded by playing another recording, the final intercepted call between Camilla and Laurent in Calais. €2 million. The testimony must stand. Camilla's body stiffened. William placed a signed document on the table. "Reginald has agreed to testify, in open court, before the public, before history." He turned back to the council. "I formally propose the suspension of all duties held by Queen Camilla, the launch of an independent criminal investigation, and the full restoration of the Hearts of Britain Fund." Camilla rose abruptly, her voice breaking. "Charles." The king did not look at her. "That is enough, Camilla," he said quietly. "Return home and await the council's decision." She faltered as guards stepped forward and escorted her out. The doors closed behind her, this time for good. Scotland Yard, later that day. The extradition order was signed. Police units surrounded Clarence House. Camilla was guided into a black vehicle. No pearls, no crown, only an aging face etched with fear and disbelief. The press erupted. "Queen Camilla arrested. Largest royal embezzlement scandal in history." Across the world, Our justice for Diana surged to the top of every feed. 1 week later, Camilla was transferred to the Ray Mill House estate in Scotland, a remote villa stripped of phones and internet, surrounded by forests and silence. Sitting alone by the fireplace, she stared into the pine trees beyond the window and whispered, "Diana, you won." No one answered. William stood on the balcony of Buckingham Palace, gazing down at the cheering crowd below. He opened his mother's envelope one final time. Alongside the familiar note, a faint pencil line appeared, written in Diana's hand. "My son, when the darkness lifts, the light will be yours." William smiled through tears. Returning to his study, he began drafting the announcement. The Hearts of Britain Fund will be fully restructured. All misappropriated funds will be repaid. The British royal family enters a new era, an era defined by truth. Under a clear blue London sky, Diana's shadow finally faded. William tightened his grip on the balcony rail. The curtain had fallen. And this time, no shadow remained to dim the light. Do you think Camilla's actions in bribing the border police and forcing Reginald to take the blame are a sign of desperation or the true nature of her manipulative power? Share your thoughts with us in the comment section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.